أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. That's fine. واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. رب زدني علما. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير. أما بعد, respected brothers, جزاكم الله خيرا for sitting down for our fiqh lesson 25 today. And first of all, the intention behind these lessons is ibadah. The intention behind these lessons is ibadah. Essentially, we sit here on Thursdays, on Wednesdays, for any lesson that we sit for is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because studying Allah's deen is one of the biggest forms of ibadah, and was one of the biggest blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to a person and tries to honor them. So we know that the hadith says, okay, hold on. We're just trying this out for the first time, so bear with us just for a second. Okay, let's leave it like that for now. That's okay. Prophet says in the hadith, من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما, whomsoever goes on a path to seek knowledge, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enable or ease his journey and his path into Jannah. And so therefore, we are tullabul ilm, we are seekers of knowledge. And the topic that we are studying, the subject fiqh, my friends, is one of the most important Islamic subjects out there. Because fiqh is essentially understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's book, the Quran al-Kareem, what the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what the Sahaba, what the Tabi'een, Atba'ut Tabi'een, Mujtahideen, all of their works put together, summarized into the final product, which is Islamic law. And fiqh is that, Islamic law. And so we are obviously only touching upon fractions and just drops of water from that ocean of knowledge. But inshallah today is our 25th lesson of fiqh, and we're trying to do something a bit different to make it a bit more interactive, and also for ease of access, because I know not everybody has the book, but I think if we can display like that on the screen, it's quite clear, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I was worried that maybe the light is going to cause a bit of a problem. But alhamdulillah, so today the chapter that we're studying on our today being the 25th lesson is on page number 134 of our book, which is Ascent to Felicity, Maraq al-Sa'adat, translated into English. And we'll be studying that over the past 25 lessons. We've covered the chapter of Shahada, we've covered the chapter of Salah and Tahara and how to purify oneself, and now we are on the chapter of fasting. And last week we spoke and we studied rules that were relevant to things that are disliked while fasting, things that are not disliked while fasting, and so on and so forth. But today, inshallah, and today we will be moving on to the next part, which is the following actions. The following actions during the day necessitate withholding from anything. So this is what we're saying now. Anything that would vitiate the fast for the remainder of the day, i.e. it is mandatory wajib to do so. Meaning, what this part is talking about is, in the following scenarios, you are still, imagine you're fasting on a day of Ramadan, okay? Imagine it is the day of Ramadan. Whether you're fasting or not, we're going to find it's the day of Ramadan, and you're a Muslim, you're aqil, you're not out of your senses, you're not ill, you're baligh, so you should be fasting, okay? And any of these things happen that we're going to say now. If any of these things happen that we're going to list now, then you need to carry on fast, you need to stop, you need to not eat for the rest of the day until Maghrib time. So what he's trying to say to you is, first of all, if one breaks the fast, whether accidental or on purpose or under coercion, meaning now for some reason, for some accidental reason, you have drunk some water, you've eaten some food. Now for the remainder of the day, does that mean you carry on enjoying food? Or does that mean you carry on drinking? No, what it means is that for the rest of the day, you still need to carry on as if you're fasting. You need to carry on your fasting. You need to carry on not eating and drinking until Maghrib time. So these scenarios that we're going to list now are situations where you need to carry on fasting. You need to carry on with your fast until the end of the day, which is Maghrib. So if one breaks the fast whether accidental or on purpose or under coercion, you purposefully broke your fast. Shaitan got to you, whatever the case. Does that mean now it's an open license for you to eat for the rest of the day? No. You need to still stop eating until the rest of the day. Someone forced you to eat or drink something, made you eat or drink something. Does that mean that you're okay to, even after the forceful eating, you can carry on eating or drinking? No. It means that you still need to hold on to your fast until the rest of the day. That's situation number one. Situation number two, if a traveler arrives to his place of residence and was not fasting on his journey. So now you were traveling from outside of London, and while you were traveling, it's allowed for you not to fast. While you're traveling, it's allowed for you not to fast. And the conditions will come that it's allowed for you not to fast if you're already traveling. So for example, you're already outside of your hometown, then it's Ramadan, beginning of that day, which is Subh al-Sadiq or Fajr time. Only if you are outside of your hometown, when the fast begins, then you cannot fast. As for, I'm going to travel today at 10 o'clock, I'm going to travel today 12 o'clock, but I'm still in my hometown, then in that scenario, you should fast, because while the fast began, you are in your hometown. But the point being is, if you are traveling, okay, you're traveling and you're not fasting, because you chose not to fast. For you to know is also that if you're traveling, it is better for you to fast than to break it. You can break it, but it's better for you to fast. Now, if you're traveling for which you chose not to fast, now you have arrived at your hometown. If a traveler arrives to his place of residence and was not fasting on his journey, you should still carry on withholding from eating and drinking until the rest of the day. Does that make sense? So you just came from Heathrow Airport, you had a good meal on the plane, even though because it was Ramadan, but you're not fasting because you're allowed to not fast. When you come home to Poplar, wherever you live, you should still withhold from eating or drinking until Maghrib time. Number three, if a woman in menstruation or postnatal bleeding becomes pure. So a sister is in that situation and all of a sudden she stops. Now, while she was in her menstruation or postnatal bleeding, she's allowed to eat or drink, she doesn't have to fast. But if it suddenly stops, then she should still respect the day, and she should basically treat it as if she was fasting for the day and not eat or drink for the rest of the day. Fourthly, if a non-Muslim embraces Islam, you have just accepted Islam on the month of Ramadan, in the month of Ramadan, everyone else is fasting around you, what should you do? Should you eat? No, you've now accepted Islam, and even though you never started your day fasting, you should still withhold from eating or drinking for the rest of the day. If a child becomes an adult in the middle of the day Ramadan, okay, all of a sudden we've realized the young woman has become an adult now, and now it's wajib for them to fast. But before that they were eating, until lunchtime they were eating, they were having breakfast. But all of a sudden they've realized now they need to, it's wajib for them to fast, because they've just, that turning point has come now, and they've realized that, I'm an adult now. So in that scenario, they need to withhold from eating or drinking until the rest of the day. So these are 5 scenarios where even though you might have started your day without fasting, but you continue, you do imsak, you withhold from eating or drinking for the rest of the day in Ramadan. The first 3 cases require a makeup as opposed to the last 2. What are the first 3? If one breaks the fast accidentally, they need to make your fast up. If a traveler arrives to his place of residence, then even though you missed that fast while you're traveling, you still need to make it up. If a woman, she was in her monthly period or postnatal bleeding, then she needs to make that fast up. As for salah, for sisters, they don't need to make it up. But fasting, you need to make it up, even if you're on your, you know all of this, mashallah. Now we come to exemptions from fasting. Situations where you don't have to fast. The following people are exempted from fasting in Ramadan. A sick person who fears that illness will worsen. Okay? And this is not just a thought, it's something based on knowledge, something that's, an evident situation. Oh, I think I might fall ill if I don't eat. I think I might get thirsty and dehydrate. No, it's not like that. You have to be certain. You have to know based on medical advice. 519 will explain to you. This also includes a sick person who fears prolongation of his illness, or even a healthy person who fears that he will become ill due to fasting. So if you're a sick person and you fear that your sickness will worsen by fasting, then you don't have to fast for that day. So the following people are exempted from fasting in Ramadan, but you need to still fast outside of Ramadan. You need to do qada for it. فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. So if you're ill in Ramadan and you think that your illness is going to get worse, then you need to still hold on to that fast, or to remember that fast and then keep it outside of Ramadan. Second situation, the second person, a pregnant woman or nursing woman with the condition for each that she have a legitimate fear for the baby or for herself. A sister is pregnant. A woman is feeding her child from natural milk. Now, does she have to fast or not? Well, the answer is that if you have a legitimate fear based on physician's advice, based on actual scenarios, not just I think that if I don't fast, I will not be hydrated enough and therefore I can't feed my baby, or I think I will be dehydrated and it's going to affect the baby. No, you have to actually seek medical advice. If the doctor says that you're in England now, 18 hours fasting, it will damage you, it will harm you, therefore you shouldn't fast, and in that scenario, you take that advice. Khalas? Otherwise, it's not just based on thoughts. It's 7-hour fast, 8-hour fast, 9-hour fast. You think, but then the doctor says, no, actually, you know what? 9 hours fasting is reasonable. As for 12 hours and beyond, then that's probably harmful for your baby. So you listen to a physician's advice. So these are people that don't have to fast in Ramadan. A sick person, a pregnant woman or a nursing woman, one who is undergoing severe thirst from which he fears death. Severe thirst, where you think that you're probably going to die because of that thirst. In that scenario, you're allowed to break your fast and drink. Moving on, these are people that don't have to fast in Ramadan. Or a traveler, for him to fast is more preferable if it does not harm him. So if you're a traveler, you don't have to fast, but it's still preferred for you to fast as long as it doesn't harm you. Moving on, if one who breaks the fast due to a valid excuse, as listed above, passes away before having the chance to make up the days missed, then it is not mandatory to make up those days. So meaning, the one who has a valid excuse to miss the fast or to break the fast, but before he had a chance, he wasn't procrastinating, he wasn't being lazy about it, but by the time he made it up, he passed away. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. For him, does it mean you have to give fidya for him from his inheritance? Do we need to take some money from his belongings so that we can give it as fidya for him? No. Because he was gonna fast and he passed away before it, and he wasn't one of those people that will come to the list of the people that don't actually have to fast or they just have to pay fidya. So the point being is, one who breaks fast due to a valid excuse, passes away before having the chance to make up those missed days, then it is not mandatory to make up those days. And the footnote will explain to you what I've just said, which is you don't have to give fidya for him. When making up fasts in general, one does not have to perform them consecutively. We have 5 days left from Ramadan. Or a sister missed 7 days in Ramadan. Does she have to keep all of these 7 days in order? No. She can keep one fast on Monday, one on Wednesday, one on Saturday, for example, one on the following week. You don't have to keep it exactly in the same order. This is information. The fidya payment for a very old person who is unable to fast. Now, for those people who are unable to fast and they're quite old, and we're quite certain that they can't actually make up for those fasts as well because they're quite old, and we can't imagine that they're going to get better and they're going to start fasting. For them, what is the fidya? How much do they pay in charity for them to, as an expiation for them not fasting? The fidya payment for a very old person who is unable to fast is half a sa', which is 2.2 kgs of wheat, and remember I said last time it's about 5 pounds. Or its equivalent monetary value for each day. So for each day they miss, they need to give that amount. That's for someone who's very old. What if you're someone who's just lazy, you don't want to fast? Can you just give that? Can you just give that money and just say, no, I don't have to fast anymore? No. Because you originally have to fast. And if you are an able person and you break the fast, then the punishment is severe. Or the expiation, as we've said before, is very severe. You need to free a slave. Anybody has a slave? No. Or you have to fast for 60 days. If you can't actually fast for 60 days because of your medical reasons, then you can give the half a sa' for 60 days worth. For 60 days, you need to give 2.2 kgs of wheat to the poor people. So the point being is, this is only for those old people who can't fast and who can't imagine that they will get better to be able to fast as well. This is very important to remember. A person performing a voluntary fast may break it without an excuse according to one narration. So now, Monday I want to fast, Thursday I want to fast. According to the originally, the Hanafi jurists say to you that once you have made a contract with Allah, you've made the intention, you've started to fast, especially after midday, you fasted for half the day, then you need to complete that fast. Okay, and they have some evidence we spoke about this before. But here it's saying, if you are performing a voluntary fast, then you are allowed to break it according to one narration. Entertaining, and 516 will explain to you what they mean by this one narration. According to the stronger narration, however, one must have a valid excuse to break a voluntary fast. Okay, so you have valid, even if it's a voluntary fast, you've started it, you've got into a contract with Allah, you made an intention, you should try and continue for the rest of the day. Going back to where we were, entertaining guests is a valid excuse for both the host and the guest. You decide to fast nafal. All of a sudden, mehman, guest came to your house. They're going to feel uncomfortable if you don't eat with them. Therefore, you should eat with them. So hosting guests is a valid excuse for you to break your fast, especially if it's a nafal one, and then you make it up. Why? Because you've already gone into it, and it's like a vowed fast to Allah. You've said, I'm going to fast for the day, and then for some reason you had to break it, so therefore you should make it up. But it's a valid excuse for you to break it if there are guests in your house. Or you're supposed to, for example, you go to the masjid and you meet a friend from Birmingham who just came down, and he's like, hey man, what's going on? Let's catch some dinner. Let's catch some lunch. And you're like, no, I'm fasting. They're like, come on man, I want to eat with you. It's been such a long time. He's going to get offended. So okay, khalas. Let's eat together and make up the fast later on. So it's a valid excuse, inshallah. Okay, if one breaks a voluntary fast after having started it, in any case, it is mandatory wajib for him to make it up. Now this is different from other madhahib. We say that if you start a nafal fast and you break it for whatever reason, you still make it up afterwards. Except for the days in which it is prohibited to fast. When one breaks a voluntary fast after having started it, in any case, it is mandatory wajib for him to make it up, except for the days in which it is prohibited to fast, namely the 2 days of Eid and 3 days of Tashriq. If you start to fast on those days, then there's no making up, because you shouldn't be fasting on those days anyway. Khalas? If a person makes an unspecified vow, we spoke about this before. There are different types of vows. There are specified vows and unspecified vows. Specified vows, I say, oh Allah, I'm going to fast for you on the 26th of April, for example. That's a specified vow. But then there is unspecified vow. Oh Allah, I will fast for you on any day. On a day, inshallah. If one makes unspecified vow to fast, or a vow to fast upon fulfillment of a particular condition, which then occurs, then he must fulfill his vow, and Allah knows best. Meaning, you have made an unspecified vow. You need to make sure you carry out that fast. Or if you say, oh Allah, if you make me better from this illness, I will fast 10 days. Then you should carry out that promise that you made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah knows best. And that brings us to the end of the chapter of the fasting itself, I believe.
There's a bit about Itikaaf.
Oh no, Itikaaf will come in today, yeah. So there we go. Itikaaf is there. So Itikaaf is not fasting, but it's in Ramadan, so it's relevant. Okay. So this is very rushed today. I had to like take a cam scanner photo of the book on my phone and then trying it out. Spiritual retreat in the mosque, in the masjid, i'tikaf. Retreat in the masjid. Sounds very relaxing and it's good. To be honest, mashallah, I know there are a lot of brothers that do i'tikaf, and it's an amazing way of ibadah. May Allah bless you all and give us the tawfiq to also join you in the future, inshallah. Spiritual retreat is of 3 types. He's going to define it at the bottom on the footnote. So the i'tikaf itself can be wajib, sunnah mu'akkada, or mustahab. Okay? I'tikaf can be wajib when one makes a vow to perform it. You said, oh Allah, I want to do i'tikaf. Now it's wajib for you to do it. Okay? Emphasize sunnah. Sunnah kifaya. The last 10 nights of Ramadan. This is interesting. Sunnah kifaya. You've heard of fardu kifaya, right? Fardu kifaya is like, for example, janazah. That's certain people from the community, they need to do janazah of every person, every Muslim that dies. If everyone leaves it, then everyone is sinful. Sunnah kifaya is similar, meaning it's a sunnah which everyone doesn't have to do, but some people in the community have to do it. And if everybody leaves it, then it's a sin shared by the whole of the community. So emphasize sunnah, emphasize communal kifaya sunnah, the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Meaning, Darul Ummah today, mashallah, we get 50, 60 applicants for i'tikaf. We even have people competing for who should do i'tikaf here. But one day, for some reason, no one wants to do i'tikaf anymore. And everybody leaves i'tikaf in the masjid. Then, this is something not good. Some people should be specific, should carry out that sunnah every Ramadan. Recommended mustahab for any other retreat. For example, today you come into the masjid for 4 hours. You have to stay here, you're waiting for someone. You say, oh Allah, my intention is i'tikaf. For those 4 hours, you will get the thawab for it, inshallah. Fasting is a condition for the validity of the vowed spiritual retreat, the first type only. So now this is very interesting, and this is actually a mukhtalafi mas'ala, this is a different upon mas'ala, which is, I have vowed, oh Allah, for example, oh Allah, I am going to fast such and such a date. I'm going to do i'tikaf on such and such a date. While you're doing it, now that you've vowed it, it's wajib for you to do the i'tikaf. So it's a wajib i'tikaf. While you're in i'tikaf, do you have to be fasting or not? Because you never made a vow for fasting, you made a vow for i'tikaf. So while you're in i'tikaf, even if it's just a specified vow, it's not Ramadan, do you still have to fast? The Hanafi madhab says to you that you should still fast. You still have to fast. Because being in i'tikaf, one of the conditions of it, of mandatory i'tikaf, one of the conditions of it, that you have to fast. There's a whole, there's qiyas al-aqs involved. There's like you could call it like qiyas, we know when you get one situation, you get the ruling and apply it to the next one. They do a crossed or an opposite qiyas here by doing it with salah. It's a bit of a complicated scenario, it's an usul fiqh topic. But the point being is, this is the rule, that if you're going to do you said, oh Allah, I'm going to do i'tikaf for such and such a day, you should also fast according to this school of law. Obviously in other schools of law it's different. The minimum period of time to fulfill a voluntary retreat, the third type, is a moment with its intention. And as with all types of spiritual retreat, it is valid only in a mosque of congregation. What's a mosque of congregation? Somewhere where adhan and iqamah is done. Some fuqaha have said that all of the 5 salah have to be done in that masjid as well. Others have said as long as adhan and iqamah takes place in that masjid, then it's a mosque of congregation. So it's not a very tiny mosque. It's not, for example, a mosque belonging to a supermarket or something like that. So it's a normal sort of a jami' masjid, like we say. This is a jami' masjid where jama'ah takes place. So if you go into a masjid and you make the intention of doing i'tikaf, it can be for any period, 1 hour, 2 hours, 20 minutes, and it will be rewarding, inshallah. And this is something good. My dad used to always advise us to say, whenever you go to the masjid, even if you're just waiting for the salah for 5 minutes, make the intention of i'tikaf. Because you're just by sitting there in ibadah, which is really quite amazing. One may not leave his place of retreat except for a legitimate need based on sacred law, such as to pray the Friday prayer in the main community masjid. So you have different size masjids. Certain small masajid, they don't have Jum'ah there. So now if you're in i'tikaf and your particular masjid that you're doing i'tikaf in, there is no Jum'ah there. So you need to go to Jum'ah on Friday. You are allowed to go to the masjid because it's a need to go to Jum'ah. Leave your i'tikaf and go to the masjid just for that salah, just for that Jum'ah. Generally, you're in i'tikaf, you can't leave for unnecessary, all of this stuff, mashallah, for unnecessary reasons. Or for a natural need such as to urinate or due to an emergency, such as if forced to leave under coercion. In any of these cases, he should immediately enter the mosque upon fulfilling the need. So you've gone out, you need to make an emergency phone call, whatever, you should come back straight away. You shouldn't spend too much time outside. If there were no valid excuses, then the spiritual retreat would be invalidated by his leaving the masjid. The woman, we know men go to the masjid. What if a sister, one of our moms, our sisters want to do i'tikaf? How do they do it? The woman performs a spiritual retreat in the area of her house which she has generally designated for her prayer, her salat. So there's a particular room, particular part of a room where she normally prays. Or even if there isn't such a place, just before Ramadan she designates such a place. And this is where her i'tikaf will take place. So just like your rule is in the masjid as men that you shouldn't leave without an excuse, similarly for her in that particular zone, that she shouldn't leave it without an excuse, and her thawab or i'tikaf is there, inshallah. Lastly, last page of i'tikaf, and then we're going into zakat inshallah next time. It is permissible for the man performing spiritual retreat to eat or drink, of course, sleep, or even buy or sell. But this buying or selling is that type of buying or selling which is necessary for your family at that particular moment in time. So someone says to you, you get a call from your house, meat is finished, chicken is finished, rice is finished. You're allowed to talk. So you're talking, and so what do? You make a call to Surma town, to Bangla town, and say, my son, we need 10 kgs of rice, 5 kgs of meat, can you please? And here's my card number, or I'll pay you later on. This is a transaction. But this is a necessary transaction for your family and those dependent on you during your i'tikaf. As for if it's just, you're selling a car which you normally sell cars, or you're selling a phone because you're a phone seller, this is not allowed. This is makruh. Makruh tahrimi, for you to trade and be involved with dunya while you're inside the masjid for i'tikaf. Okay, in the masjid, provided the commodity for sale is not brought inside the mosque, as to do so is disliked. So you can't say that, oh, Vaisab, I need a sheep for Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Fitr. Can you bring it to the masjid? And the guy comes with 10 bags. You shouldn't do that. You should just get home delivery, and that's where home delivery comes into use. It is also disliked to remain silent or to speak other than good. Remaining silent here means some people think that just the mere silence is ibadah. Just staying silent by itself is not ibadah. If you're staying silent and doing dhikr of Allah, thinking about Quran, revising the Quran, doing something spiritual or something ibadah related in your mind, then that's fine. But just the mere silence is not ibadah. But also if you're, for example, with the intention that the hadith that says that you shouldn't speak unless you have something good to say. So I'm practicing that hadith. But in that scenario, with that intention, it will become ibadah. But just mere silence, someone is sitting there silently, is probably thinking about anything else in the world. This is not ibadah. It is unlawful, haram, to be with your partners or to engage in anything relevant to it. Moreover, while you're in i'tikaf, moreover, the retreat is invalidated by being with your partner or by being involved in it, and then if ejaculation happens because of that. If one makes a vow to perform the spiritual retreat for a certain number of days, he must remain in his retreat during the accompanying nights as well. So I've said I'm going to fast for 10 days. What about the nights? You need to keep the nights. You have to stay in the masjid for nights. So I'm going to fast for 10 nights from Friday, which means on Thursday Maghrib, you need to come in and start your i'tikaf. Similarly, a vow of nights necessitate the accompanying days. I'm going to do i'tikaf for 3 nights. The days as well you have to stay in the masjid. This type of retreat, in either case, must be performed in consecutive days and nights, not separately, even if he did not explicitly stipulate consecutiveness in the vow. So you've just said 10 days, just by saying 10 days or 3 days, you never said 3 days consecutively, you just said 3 days. But that intention also entails that it's consecutively. And where do we see the same sentence or a similar sentence before? We said in Ramadan, if you miss fast, do you have to make qada for them consecutively? We said no. But here we're saying if you've made the vow to do i'tikaf, then you need to do it consecutively. If he makes a vow for 2 days, he must perform his retreat for the accompanying 2 nights as well. We said this before. And that's all of the chapter of the i'tikaf. There are some footnotes which are important and very beneficial in some points. I think there was one here that I ticked. Where is it? I think it's here. What does it say? Bismillah. Yeah, okay. So this is about, we already explained that about, when you're traveling, because a lot of people think I'm traveling today and my flight's at 12 p.m. but you're still at home at 4 a.m. and you're busy eating. That's not right. You can't do that. You have to be, because وَإِن كُنْتُمْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, if you are on a journey, okay, then you can break your fast. Okay, khalas, that's all the things that we need to cover today, inshallah. And from next lesson, inshallah, we'll be going into the chapter of zakah. Are there any questions? Yes?
So, exemptions is coming up.
Yep.
Just think obvious, these schools are now really seriously advising not to fast in the exam season. They also keep saying they have some scholars of Islam saying that they shouldn't fast. But
who are these scholars?
I don't know.
And I'm not trying to be funny, but who are these scholars?
I don't know. I don't believe them, but I'm just saying, what if they force you not to fast or stuff like that?
I don't think they will ever force you. Alhamdulillah, we live in a country. It's not the old, Hitler's regime. We're okay in that sense that, inshallah, no one will physically force you to eat or drink something before you go into an exam. And if you're an adult, if you're sane, if you are in the conditions which require you to fast, exam is no excuse to break it. Some extremely, easygoing mashayikh which try to make everything very easy might say haja, might say darura, but generally, personally, or majority of the scholars will see that it's not an excuse, and so therefore you should still fast. If you are actually being forced to eat or drink, which is basically literally force fed, then that's something else. You still carry on fasting for the rest of the day, as we've just studied now. Khalas? Yes, Ahsan bhai.
One of the first points is that if you ate accidentally without noticing that you were fasting, do you have to make up for it?
No, so there's a difference between forgetting that you're fasting and forgetting that eating is not allowed.
Oh.
Do you see the difference? So if you forget that you're fasting and you eat, then there's no making up for it. But you forgot that eating or drinking is not allowed while you're fasting. Lack of knowledge. And you accidentally broke the fast. So that's also accidental, but that accident requires for you to make it up. And it also requires for you to continue fasting for the rest of the day, in honor of Ramadan. Does that make sense, inshallah?
What about on purpose? What about on purpose? I thought that's sinful and
yeah, of course it is.
But then, is the book is saying you make up?
You make it up afterwards, and you do the expiation for it, and you fast the day that you broke it on.
Okay.
So there's no running away. And even then you don't get all the reward for Ramadan. Okay.
Is that 60 fasts as well?
That's 60 consecutive fasts for breaking it intentionally while you're supposed to be fasting.
So is it like 61 then? So you make it up and on top of that?
Yes.
Okay.
So you fast the day, so it's 62 actually. Except for the food that you ate. But yeah, it's quite severe. And I know a lot of brothers and sisters break fasts quite normally now. It's really dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. And imagine you've got so many fasts to make up. It's quite dangerous, quite scary. How are you going to ever make them up?
Making 60 is scary enough.
It's enough just for one. And imagine for a whole month.
Consecutive, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very hard.
They miss the 60 and they just give the fidya.
You can't do that optionally. You have to go through the list. Can you free a slave? No, I can't. Can you fast? Yes, I can. No, you can't because you're ill. Prove it. Okay, that's fine. In that case, you pay the fidya. But you can fast. You're mentally, you're physically fine. Therefore, you have to fast. You can't go to the next option. I know there are people out there who are very well off, and I'm not giving anyone ideas. Well off rich people, when Ramadan comes, they go on a holiday. Because they're musafir now.
Loophole.
Yeah, loopholes, man.
Allah is Allah.
Yeah, so if you do that intentionally, but then look, according to even that, even if someone wants to do that, for according to especially Shafi'is, they have a clause in there, for those scenarios which are like exemptions or sort of discounts from Allah. So for example, when you're fasting, it's rukhsa, you don't have to fast. So Shafi'i says something quite interesting. What do they say? They say if your journey is for haram.